4 years ago when my wife met Jesus, when I was just a churchgoer, when I was just a half-stepping, lukewarm hypocrite, having a form of godliness but denying the power thereof, when I was still living in sin, taking grace for granted, crucifying the Lord afresh, trampling on his blood, a pervert at heart, still caught up in many sins that people didn't know about. I was very envious of my wife. I was jealous of my wife because she truly met Jesus. She met him on her sickbed with my daughter Mary, who's just turned 4 in December, this past December. And my wife had a revelation of Jesus. She truly met Jesus. The scales on her eyes fell off. Things were not the same to her. She began to truly see. She could discern what was of God and what was not of God. She could tell just by having a conversation with somebody. Usually she could tell right away whether that person was of God or not, or she was just hearing from God. She was actually hearing the voice of Jesus. She has journals and journals, several journals that are full of things that Jesus spoke to her while she was on her sickbed and the early part of 2008, the end of 2007. The Lord was just speaking to her. And with all my Bible knowledge, I knew the Bible so much better than she did, so much better. And I knew all the right things to say. I could rattle off scriptures to her to make her second guess herself, but she was actually getting her word straight from Jesus. And I was very envious of her. I was very jealous of her because I did not understand. I had not paid the price. I had not surrendered my life to Jesus. I was not living a life of obedience. I was not walking in the Spirit. I was walking in the flesh. I surely wasn't being righteous and holy. But as she went through this sickness, after our daughter was born, and she lay on her sickbed for over 2 months, the Lord was just feeding her with that fresh bread, that manna from heaven. And he was just transforming her. And I was so jealous. I mean, I haven't really admitted this to anybody, she knows, but to people out here, any of you, I've never admitted it, but I was so envious and jealous. Because when somebody else has something that you don't have, if you're not walking with Jesus, you get jealous. You get envious. And it's rotten to your bones. And you are either going to get violent, you're going to get hatred for that person, or that light that is in that person that is shining bright for Jesus will rub off on you. In no other better way of putting it. You are either going to go into the light, which is Jesus Christ, or you're going to attack it and hate it, and you're just going to rebel against it, and you're just going to leave. And you're just going to continue in your sin and eventually be destroyed. But through the example of my wife, and through the revelation that she had on her sickbed, and how the Lord transformed her mind and transformed her heart, and through all the way until 2010, the Lord was dealing with me over a period of 2 years, and he just began to just transform me and make me hungry. I wanted to have what she had. I wanted to have that relationship with Jesus. Before we ever came on the internet and met any of the brothers or sisters on here, I knew the truth. My wife met Jesus. He was speaking to her every day. He was speaking to her constantly. We knew Jesus speaks. We knew the truth. We knew that God is real. We knew we came up out of organized religion. Just right about a year after my wife got off of her sickbed, the Lord took us out of the church. I fought my wife tooth and nail about it, but we came up out of the church. I was still living in deception. I thought that the ceremonies, the religious traditions, all these things that I had been doing since I was a teenager, I thought that was the way to go. I thought that was godliness, and it was all about an outward appearing of holiness and righteousness. It wasn't a matter of being pure at heart. But we know that is not true. Towards the end of 2010, I really began to pray, began to fast, and the Lord delivered me from having a perverse heart. He delivered me from a perverse mind. He delivered me from taking pills. When my wife was on her sick bed, she did not take one pill. She had to have a hysterectomy, and she had DNCs. I mean, she had surgeries, and she would not even take one Vicodin. All glory to Jesus. But she would not even take one Vicodin. But she was getting these prescriptions for them, and I would take them, and I was taking them. I was taking those Vicodin. I was abusing those medicines. At the time, I wasn't drinking. I had stopped drinking about 5 years ago, and it's been quite a long time since I've been into heavy drugs. But I was abusing medications at the time, and I was taking them to feel good. And like I said, my wife was being the perfect example of Christ. Yeah, we still got in arguments because I wanted to do things my way, and I didn't want to listen to her. And but the Lord saw us through those things. But through the example that my wife was of Jesus, and as I saw her relationship with Jesus just grow, and He began to give her dreams and visions and all these revelations, He began to speak boldly to her. He began to tell her things to come that actually happened. Through this conduct of my wife, through this example that she was living of Jesus, the Lord led me to Him. Through her example, Jesus revealed Himself to me. And I knew that she was on the narrow way. I knew that she had a revelation of Jesus, and she had the real thing, and I wanted the real thing. And it took nearly 2 years or more for that envious that I had, that envy that I had, that jealousy that I had. I wanted what she had, and I didn't want her to have it, because I had wickedness inside me. In my heart, there were layers and layers and layers of unforgiveness and bitterness and resentment. And I was holding it against her because she was shining for Jesus, and I was still living like a devil. My friends, if you don't know Jesus, and you're seeing other people that do know Jesus, that are hearing His voice, that are doing what Jesus called them to do, don't attack them. Don't be envious of them. My friends, it's not them that you hate. It's Jesus that's inside them. So please, my friends, don't hate me. Don't hate my wife. Don't hate my brothers. Don't hate my sisters. Don't hate your wife or your husband or your children or whoever it is. Just because you have not had a revelation of Jesus, just because you have not overcome the obstacles that are in your life to try and draw you to Jesus, don't attack other people. Because, my friends, that's just going to drive you further and further away from Jesus. My friends, we need to cry out to Jesus. Every breakthrough that I had in the past 2 years has come through much prayer, but even more so for fasting for me. I had to go through much fasting. We've went through periods of fasting 3 days straight, even a week straight before, a couple times. I mean, days straight, water fast, just 1 meal a day sometimes. But my most effective fasts have been through just having water or nothing at all. And my friends, Jesus will set you free. But some things can only be done through much prayer and fasting. And during this fasting, you must be crying out to Jesus, listening for His voice. Because, my friends, Jesus loves you. He loves me. He loves everyone. If you're still breathing, if you're still walking this earth, Jesus still loves you. Jesus will make a way. He'll forgive any sin. Mercy time is still available to you. So, my friends, please, if you see another brother or you see another sister, another person that's on fire for God, that's speaking words of life, that's being a shining light for Jesus, don't attack them. Pray for them. If you don't agree with them, pray for them. Unless Jesus tells you specifically about a specific person to say something, you should not be saying anything at all. My friends, we need to be led by the Spirit of God. So please, don't worry about whether or not I'm right with Jesus. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. Don't worry about whether or not somebody else is going to hell or they went to hell or not. Are you going to go to hell? Are you in right standing with Jesus? Are you doing what Jesus called you to do? Are you criticizing everyone else because they don't fit your way of thinking? They don't fit how you think that they should be. My friends, I've been on both sides of the fence. I straddled the fence for many, 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 many years. I straddled the fence for 15, 20 years. And I know both sides. And we can come on here on the internet and act like we're all holy. We can come on here on the internet and say, oh, I'm the most righteous and holy person that there is. I'm clean, without spot and without blemish. But then the camera goes off. You click another window, and you're looking at porn. You're looking at women. You're looking at men. You're looking at all these nasty things. You're still holding on to those magazines, those books. You still got saved images on your hard drive of your computer, perverse things. My friend, Jesus knows all. He sees all. And whether you know it or not, maybe you've had victory for a week or 10 days or a month, but you're still holding on to those things inside you. You haven't given it to Jesus. My friends, don't be like the dog that returns to his vomit. Don't be like the clean pig that goes right back to the mud. There has to be separation. If you were going north, time to go south, and do not look back. Do not look around. Get rid of all those idols. Get rid of all those things that are not of God. Please, please don't play around. Don't play around. When it all comes down to it, it's just between you and the Lord Jesus Christ. Only you are going to stand before Him on the day of judgment. And you will give account. I will give account for every idle word that we have spoken. If we have not repented of it, if we have not asked forgiveness from both Jesus and those who we've hurt, the Lord knows your heart. He knows your motive. He knows your intentions. Go to Jesus. Please. Please, it's all that matters. Today could be your day. Today could be my day. All that will matter in the end is whether or not you know Jesus and He knows you. I pray that you'll go cry out to Jesus. Ask Him to reveal Himself to you. Ask Him to remove the scales from your eyes. Ask Him to give you eyes to see and ears to hear. My friend, this world is dark and evil and is not of Jesus. But you know what? I don't know if you can see this. Jesus beat the devil. He beat the devil. When you truly meet Jesus, nothing else matters. All you want to do is be pleasing to Him. And all that will matter in the very end is whether or not He knows you and you know Him. My friends, I pray if you don't know Jesus, go and cry out to Him now. Put everything else aside. Nothing else matters. Put your focus on Jesus. Tune out of this wicked world and tune into Jesus all the time. Keep your mind focused on Him, and He will keep you in peace. Trust in Him. He will make a way. He loves you. I love you. We're praying for you, and may Jesus bless you. People didn't know about, I was very envious of my wife. I was jealous of my wife because she truly met Jesus. She met Him on her sickbed with my daughter Mary, who's just turned 4 in December, this past December. And my wife had a revelation of Jesus. She truly met Jesus. The scales on her eyes fell off. Things were not the same to her. She began 4 years ago when my wife met Jesus, when I was just a churchgoer, when I was just a half-stepping, lukewarm hypocrite, having a form of godliness but denying the power thereof, when I was still living in sin, taking grace for granted, crucifying the Lord afresh, trampling on His blood, a pervert at heart, still caught up in many sins that people don't understand. I had not paid the price. I had not surrendered my life to Jesus. I was not living a life of obedience. I was not walking in the Spirit. I was walking in the flesh. I surely wasn't being righteous and holy. But as she went through this sickness, after our daughter was born, and she lay on her sickbed began to truly see, she could discern what was of God and what was not of God. She could tell just by having a conversation with somebody. Usually she could tell right away whether that person was of God or not, or she was just hearing from God. She was actually hearing the voice of Jesus. She has journals and journals, several journals that are full of things that Jesus spoke to her while she was on her sick bed and the early part of 2008, the end of 2007. The Lord was just speaking to her. And with all my Bible knowledge, I knew the Bible so much better than she did, so much better. And I knew all the right things to say. I could rattle off scriptures to her to make her second guess herself, but she was actually getting her word straight from Jesus. And I was very envious of her. I was very jealous of her because I did not